Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining Of Two Mindsets. I am D Hill, and today we have a really cool topic, at least I think we do. It's on emotional intelligence. And the gentleman joining us today is somewhat of an expert, I think, on that topic. Before we get to him, I want to say hello to my lovely co-host, Dr. P, Dr. Pamela Hooks. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Glad that you could join us.
Yeah.
And the gentleman who is with us today is a learning and development facilitator. He has over a decade of experience in education, strategic planning, and professional development. But today, he will help us to focus on emotional intelligence, which I think is something that we could all use a little bit of help in. And that's just one of the subjects that he trains in. Everybody, if you will, please welcome Mr. Damon Rucker.
Woo!
Hello, hello. Thank you all. Thank you. I'm very excited about being here. So I really do appreciate y'all inviting me to be a guest on here today. So I'm excited. Thank you.
I
Thank
am
you.
pronouncing your name correctly. Is that right?
Yes, you are. Yes. Mhm.
Awesome. Awesome. So, Mr. Rucker, not everybody knows you, of course. So, tell us what is it that you do exactly?
Okay, well, currently what I do is I provide professional development for over 9,000 employees for the city of Atlanta. So actually last year I was able to trained over 2,000 last year. So we're really touching people here at the city of Atlanta and helping them grow professionally in their careers as well. I mean, in their careers, but also I have a very big passion about helping individuals to grow personal as well. Because even when I do these professional development trainings, I see there's an element of personal of development that can take place as well when I'm doing these trainings.
Gotcha.
So,
So,
mhm.
so what's one of the things that people get wrong or think incorrectly about what you do?
Well, they think training is something that is extremely just presenting information, but it's not just about presenting information. What training is really about is about changing behaviors, right? You want to make sure that when they come to your trainings, it's just not okay, a feel good moment right there at that time. It's about you want to see transformation. You want to make sure that the behaviors change once they come in. You want them to come in one way, but leave a different way better.
Exactly.
And Dr. P, feel free to jump in if you want to. Of course,
Yeah.
you're welcome to interrupt at any time. So, Damon, you spent more than a decade in education, training, and talent development and coaching, I think. What originally pulled you into the world of teaching and professional development?
To be honest with you, I got my degree in business and I was looking to go into corporate America when I got my degree in business. However, I couldn't find a job. So I said, God, lead me. And I prayed that He led me to what I was supposed to be doing in my purpose. So it led me into educations where I was able to really help and develop a lot of the young minds and help them to really, see their true potential, regardless of their background. So that's what led me into education. And then, I started doing some professional development, helping with the with adult learning, and which made me make that transition into where I'm at right now, into adult learning, which I really enjoy doing and seeing individuals grow even in their career. Because one of the biggest misconceptions you think is, they're adults, right? And you think that they, are equipped with these skills that I'm teaching, but I'm starting to see that a lot of them, are looking for those skills, or
Mm.
some may be lacking in some areas, which is not to their fault. It's just sometimes we're just not taught. And so when I'm able to train them in some of these skills, such as communication, emotional intelligence, and professionalism, and see the aha moments that I see for them, it really gives me a good joy that I know I'm doing my purpose, that I'm working in my purpose.
So,
Yeah, because
since
you
you,
can. Yeah, I would tell you this. I truly believe that that is your calling because you have a way of actually evoking the student into empowering themselves to be a better
Thank you.
person, not just a better employee, but a better team member, a better person, a better friend, a better cohort. So I would tell you this, that the classes that I've taken through you has really developed me as an individual. I would tell you that.
Thank you very much. I'm very humble with that. I really do appreciate you saying that because that is my main focus. I try to always keep it about the audience and you all, and remove myself and just ask, God, use me to be able to, help change some behaviors that someone's, that maybe needs some areas of growth. Let me say that, because we all have those areas that we need, some areas that we need to grow in. So thank you for saying that because I feel like that, when I'm there for a purpose to really
Mhm.
help.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So you mentioned that you find that even though people are adults, I would assume they are willing to admit that they're lacking some things. What's one of the main subjects that you teach that you find a lot of them are lacking?
Mm. There are several I will say that I do teach, but I will say the emotional intelligence piece. I really say that sometimes it's a word that just get thrown around sometimes, but people don't really understand the importance of emotional intelligence. And I think that especially when you're working in an interdependent, we live in an interdependent society, so emotional intelligence is very important. And I'm starting to realize like they leave thinking because I always ask the question, "What is emotional intelligence?" And sometimes, and majority of the time, people it's hard for them to come up with the answer on what it actually is.
Right.
And sometimes people think his emotions are just feelings, but it's not really. It's not the feeling piece. It's just the chemical body, the chemical reaction that's going through your body. But I just say that emotional intelligence is that I'm starting to see that they really truly enjoy.
So for those who are not familiar with emotional intelligence, because with all my education behind me, all the letters
Mhm.
behind my name, it was difficult and a challenge for me to get used to using emotional intelligence. But for those who do not know what emotional intelligence really is, explain that to our audience, if you don't mind.
No problem at all. Well, emotional intelligence is your ability to understand your emotions and also not just understand them, but to be able to manage them in order for you to be able to manage yourself, govern yourself, but also to be able to work with other individuals. And so that is very important. I think that's what emotional intelligence is being able to understand oneself, but then understanding oneself to be able to work effectively with other individuals, with those emotions because we know that if you look at the world today, when there's a little maybe conflict that arises, people and emotions get go high. If people don't know how to
Sure.
really manage those
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah,
and so they
yeah.
just react. They just react impulsively without understanding that they have the control and the power to manage that emotion, that feeling at that moment.
Do you think that emotional intelligence is becoming more critical in the workplace as we've come into 2026? Is it more of an issue now than it was in your past?
Absolutely, absolutely, especially in the workplace, because I think that it previously it was all about the technical skills, right?
Mhm.
But I
Right.
think now it's more about training those essential skills, those skills, those communication skills, those skills in order to be able to work with other individuals. To make sure that you're completing the goal, because, like as I mentioned earlier, we collaborate with a lot of people, and people have different behaviors and different styles and different ways they communicate. And sometimes it may not always be the best. Some people may not be self-aware on how they may communicate. So I think that with with emotional intelligence, that it allows people to be able to assess themselves in the workplace so they can work more effectively with other people.
Gotcha. Now,
Did that answer your question?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I know that you're training on emotional intelligence. So does that suggest that these organizations are also seeing how important it is that they actually have someone pushing it out there into their workplace?
I think so. I think so. I think that, because it's needed. I think that
Right.
it's really needed in the workplace, because when you think about the workplace, you think about people don't leave jobs because they may not like the job, but they may leave the job because of a toxic environment.
Right.
And within a toxic environment, that's where low emotional intelligence it lies at. So when you're in a place where it's high in emotional intelligence, then the morale is normally high in those environments.
That's
Right.
why I left my last job. Lack of emotional intelligence.
Emotional intelligence,
All
yeah.
right.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, because
absolutely.
I could see that because emotional intelligence, to be honest with you, it determines, or I'm not going to say determine, but it actually affects every individual from management down to each subordinate. And like you said, for me, I've seen how it can actually bring what's the word? I'm sorry.
Toxicity.
Toxicity.
Toxicity. Yeah, into and onto a team. And I can remember in our class there was a young lady that said there was only 3 people on her team, and that it was just horrible. And because they couldn't identify their emotional intelligence, and I think a lot of companies, and depending on the type, I don't think it determines or matters what type of job it is.
No,
I just really think that it's the individual. And I have pushed trying to get other companies to have you to come in because I think this is a
thank you.
major thing for HR, for managers to actually get all their teams, whether it's 2 or 200, to actually dive deep into emotional intelligence.
Absolutely, absolutely. And just to go back to what Mr. Hill said, he said he left a reason because of the low emotional
Mhm.
intelligence, right?
That
Because
was
it was
one
a
of the
toxic
reasons.
environment. Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
well, one of the reasons,
Yeah.
excuse me, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
One of the reasons was the toxic environment. And so when you look at it from a company standpoint, they're going to have to replace Mr. Hill, and that costs money. And I
Right.
think that with emotional intelligence, um, it can really help an organization and help a company by retaining information, as long, retaining, excuse me, not retaining information, but retaining employees, and
Mhm.
good employees.
Right.
um and so I think that it's much needed, because, as I mentioned earlier, people don't leave jobs, they leave toxic environments. And and I've been doing a lot of trainings, and it's so interesting how I see, so how many people are working in environments where they're just not happy. And if you
Yeah.
think about this, we're at work for 8 hours,
Sometimes nine.
sometimes
Sometimes
Right.
9.
Sometimes
we're there
12.
sometimes nine and sometimes 12. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
I tell my team all the time, and I try to do things to boost morale because people don't realize that you're with your work family, and I consider it a work family. You're with your work family 9 hours out of the daylight time that you get up. By the time you get home, it's late in the evening. You spent more time awake with your work family than you with your natural family.
Right.
So there's a lot of in my thinking, there's a lot more tension when you're dealing with people that you see consistently every day. You're working every day. Everyone's stress levels can be high. You don't know what people are coming to work with on their shoulders.
Hmm.
And so all
Mhm.
of that plays a part in figuring out your emotional intelligence and how to deal with different emotions because every you can and being in leadership myself, you can't treat everyone the same.
Absolutely.
You have to figure out your team members, your employees have to figure out their personality in order to make sure that you are matching their emotional intelligence so that they can have a productive and a high morale standing on the job every day and like coming to work. Nobody really likes going to work, but you want to make the atmosphere more relaxed, less stressful, less emotional confusing. I call it emotional confusing
Absolutely.
because it can be emotional confusing.
Hmm. No, I 100% agree with you, and I'm thank you for sharing, because if you think about it, when you come into work, right, you're already probably dealing with so many emotions with the
Mhm.
traffic, right? So, and it can be good emotions or negative emotions. But then when you get to work, you want that to at least be a safe place, right? Where you feel
Right.
comfortable and where you feel valued. And you know that at least my work family have my back. They understand me. And I
Right.
think that what you said is so important, that being socially aware is very important. It goes back to knowing your staff,
Mhm.
understanding that that maybe this person is dealing with something today. But that goes with being socially aware, because if you've never had no type of interaction, if you've never communicated or took any time to get to know your staff or the people you're around, you would never be aware that, you know what, maybe they're having a bad day
Yeah.
and how you can help them.
Mhm.
So I think that, being that social awareness is very important as well. And because we talk about yes, we're at the job to do a task. And I will say, yes, when we have to do it and we have to do it
Mhm.
effectively. However, you want to make sure that you're working with individuals that can do the job effectively. It's much better when you get much better product when people feel safe at work and they feel value,
Absolutely.
and they know that
Yes,
people
of
care
course.
about
Most
them.
definitely. Most definitely.
So when you're talking about being there 40 hours, 40 hours a week, and as you mentioned, sometimes a little bit longer than that, you want to make
Yeah.
sure that that's a place that's where people do feel valued and that
Right.
people
Exactly.
feel safe and everything. So that's very important. So when we talk about emotional intelligence, that's part of it. Is one of the components is being socially aware of your teammates, and so you can also help them, because we all need each other. We all
Mhm.
need each other sometime.
Right.
Yeah.
So somebody might hear us say emotional intelligence and think that that simply means being nice. What's the biggest misconception that you run into when teaching this topic?
Well, I think that people think that it's just about being nice, but what emotional intelligence is being effective.
Mm,
When I think about being emotional intelligence, it's about being effective with your actions and how you deal with individuals. So it's not always about being nice, because there's times, especially as a leader, you're going to have to be able to reprimand an individual. You might have to have that at a courageous conversation with that
Hmm.
person, right?
Hmm.
Sometimes, but it can go a lot easier when you have already built that relationship, and you have that trust with that individual, and that comes from emotional intelligence.
Dr. P, I hear you agreeing. Have you had to use your emotional intelligence in any recent situations?
I plead the fifth
I feel you.
because I
I
have
feel
my
you.
trainer. Because I have my trainer as our podcast
That's right. That's right.
today.
We got to be careful. You're right. So, Damon, you've coached leaders, you've coached employees, you've coached students across those groups. What's the biggest weakness that you come across in regard to emotional intelligence?
Hmm. I would say self-awareness.
Mm,
Self-awareness. I don't think that a lot of people are very aware of some of their weaknesses.
mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
I like to say areas of growth. Let's say that,
Areas of opportunity.
areas of
Got you.
opportunities. Yes.
So
Uh,
give us an example of areas of opportunity, right quick.
well, I think about self-awareness when we think about communication standpoint. I
Okay.
think that sometimes that people are not aware of their body language.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes there's a lot of things, some little small, minute things that we don't take in consideration, but it really can be very impactful on, your tone,
Hmm.
your body language, and just how you interact with people.
Okay.
And I think that sometimes people think that, maybe just from their environment, that's normal, but that's not always normal based off of in every space that you're in.
right. Right. So you mentioned self-awareness, and sometimes people are not aware of themselves. So what's a way that you can let people know that they were the problem in the given situation?
Well, you know, I think that if they're the pro if they're not if you don't know if you're not aware that you're the problem, l- consider if you're having the same problem with multiple individuals.
Mm,
Okay. It's the same problem with multiple
Mm,
individuals. And then that will let you know that, you may be the that person may be the
it's a
common
common
denominator, right?
denominator. Yeah.
And so, and so then right there, that's when you can go about, um, coming up with some different type of strategies to help increase that self-awareness. Because it's all about growth to me. It's all about growth. None of us are perfect, right?
Right.
right,
But the
Right.
number one thing is we want to be able to continue to keep growing as an individual and having a growth mindset to to accept, you know what, I may not be strong in this area, but you know what, I'm going to go get some training, or I'm going to do some research, read some books to get strong in this area. And there's nothing wrong with that.
So, with that being said, how do you teach individuals to accept that without them getting offended or shutting down on you?
Mm. Well, I think that it always starts with how it can benefit them. I think, everybody's always trying to always tuned into WIIFM. What's in it for me, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
everybody's favorite station, right? So I think that just sharing with them, and it depends on your approach too. I think sometimes a person's approach can always tell them, you know what, um, how that you're really sincere, that you want to help them. And I think in order to maybe buy in, you can ask that individual who may need that assistance, well, how can I help you to get into, help you develop those skills? And then sometimes maybe share some of uh um your personal areas of opportunities, right? And say, you know what, this is where I was weak at one time, and I actually got stronger. Because you don't want to never feel like that you're attacking anyone. You
Mm-hmm.
want to always
right,
make it seem like that you know what, you're
Right.
helping them. And I
Right.
think if you notice, you've been in my class, I share a lot of my personal stories as
Yeah.
well. And I share my personal stories to let you know, hey, I'm human too. You know what, I need some, there's areas that, I had to work on as well. So that's it.
right. So it sort of gives me, somebody recently said, if you go somewhere and somebody smells like poop, they might have stepped in poop. But if everywhere you go you smell poop, it's probably you. So,
It's probably that's true.
right, right. All right. So, is there a moment in your career where emotional intelligence has changed the situation
Hmm.
or the outcome of a certain situation?
Or you are someone you trained.
Yeah,
Okay. Yes, I think that, and during one of my trainings, I'm just thinking, we're just, I'm thinking where when we was going over, being more self-aware
right,
and also working with other individuals as well, I shared with them during with emotional intelligence, it's not always maybe that person. Focus on the issue sometimes. And once we understand, and I told them, once you focus on the issue, it may not always be that individual. And so when I say that, I just been thinking about one individual who came up to me after maybe a week later, saying that, you know what, they were having issues, and they went to go have that conversation with that individual, and they found out it wasn't that person they had an issue with. It wasn't personal. It
right.
was just an issue that they uh never did address. And once they identified that issue, then they was able to come up with some strategies to work through those issues.
Cool, cool. So, if there's a person or people listening today who want to improve their level of emotional intelligence, what are some simple habits that they can begin practicing?
I'm sorry, you froze. I didn't hear you.
Oh, yeah, we all froze, I guess. I said, if
Mhm.
someone listening wants to improve their emotional intelligence, what are some simple habits that they can begin practicing?
Okay, I say journal,
Mm,
or, do some journaling, do some mindfulness, to be able to get to a place to figure out, what are some areas you need to grow in, and then identify those areas of opportunities first. And then you can go about maybe doing some research. Well, not maybe, but doing some research on that, maybe doing some reading. Also, you can request me as a training, or as a trainer. I can definitely do some training on emotional intelligence, and to really spark that brain and to inspire you to change that behavior. So I would say that, or what, they can also get someone that they trust and ask them, what are some things that you notice about me?
that's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah,
And then, but it has to be someone they trust that they don't feel like that's going to try to tear them down.
Right. That goes back to that, how can you do that without them shutting down or getting offended? So yeah, I think that that trust, that's one thing. And you've done a class on trust factors as well. So yeah,
Absolutely.
I think that's the whole premise for me is having conversations with individuals and not getting them to a point where they feel offended, and you not getting it to a point where while you're having this conversation, this emotional intelligence needs to kick in to say, hey, I see that you're getting offended. It's not to offend you, it's for us to actually have a broader conversation about how we can resolve whatever issues you may have, before you don't have any issues here at this
Absolutely.
department. you know,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. And that's always, remaining calm, with emotional intelligence is being able to, be effective with your
mm,
words and with your relationships. I think that, that's most important, building those relationships. I think that you can't sometimes have those tough conversations without building some form of relationship with an
Mm.
individual.
mm.
And I think that that's very important because, being in leadership, Pamela, you have to, you still have to hold people accountable, right?
Yes.
You
Yes.
still have to hold people accountable, but I think that it's so much easier when you're able to have those conversations with them when there's already a relationship there, and that's more of that relationship building and being more social, and just getting to know more about individuals. That's one thing I've learned. A lot of individuals, they work with people, but they don't know anything about them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And not saying you have to go
In depth. Yeah.
in depth with them, but I think it's very important to. Mhm.
Yeah. All right, so we'll shift gears a little bit. I just want to thank our subscribers for watching today. And I know a lot of our subscribers consider themselves to be leaders, and you've coached leaders to develop teams. What's one mistake that you see over and over with leadership?
You know what? Everything goes back to being more socially aware and building those relationships. I truly believe that that's one of the keys is getting to know your employees, doing those one-on-ones, checking in with them. How's everything going? Because one thing I've learned and it's across from when I was a teacher to a trainer, no one really cares how much you know until they know how much you care about them, right?
Right.
And so,
Mhm.
you can be you may know everything about the job, but typically when you're working with other individuals, they want to know, what, do you have my best interest at heart? Like if something comes up that, you know, um, I have a mishap in my family or anything like that. Do you really care about me in that area, in that part of my life as well? So that's one thing that I'm starting to notice with leaders is I would encourage them to really get to know your employees, on a personal level, um, and also, just build some type of relationship with them. Because I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, why do you think there is that chasm? Why don't they know their employees as well as they should?
Because I think everybody is so focused in on the task, right?
Mhm.
I think that's and I understand everybody has a job to do, But I think that if you can work together, that's the number one thing is working together to get the task completed. And I think in creating that environment where a true leader, is someone that inspires other individuals to want to, be there and to do the job as well. And I think that that comes with that relationship piece. And I think that, you can get more accomplished when that piece is there, because,
Right.
I've been in environments where it was just strictly about the task. And it was a
Gotcha.
very
Yeah.
cold, felt very cold. Like no one, you got the work done. But what did we say earlier? We're there for 8 hours, sometimes 9 hours, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And so I think that that's very important.
Gotcha. So training all these different types of people, different levels, how do you know that the training was truly effective?
Um, Based off of my experience, I have seen several of the individuals that I have trained afterwards telling me how they can still recite some of the trainings that they have
Awesome.
learned in my class. And they said that they have implemented those into their daily work, their work life. And some have came back and told me, thank you. I never thought about it from that standpoint. Because my thing is I really want to inspire them to do well. And it's not just only about me presenting information. As I mentioned earlier, training is really about change behavior in a positive way. So I
Mhm.
think that the number one thing is for them when you're able to see them maybe months later and they still can say, you know what, I really enjoy your class. I really enjoyed your class. I got a lot out of it. And it even helped me in my personal life as well.
So that feedback is important,
Feedback is very important. Yeah.
right? Gotcha.
Mhm.
Feedback. Yes. I'm sorry. I hope I'm not being too long winded.
Not at
No,
all. No,
no,
not at
this
all.
is no, this is great. We're free form here. Everything is
Yeah,
great. This is great information.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Now, you've improved test scores, onboarding processes, and recruitment pipelines. Would you be willing to share with us a particular project that you're especially proud of?
Um, I can say that the most thing I can say that I'm proud of is inspiring individuals to do their best. I can't think of really specifically a project. I think that when I train or when I coach, I give my all. And I think, Pamela, you can contest when you're in my trainings.
Yeah,
I'm giving you all I have. I'm
yeah,
exhausted when I'm finished,
Right.
because I really do want to inspire them to be, to leave my trainings much better. I mean, leave with something
Yeah.
to
yeah,
leave, not
yeah,
just something to leave with something, but something to think about and to really make those changes.
yeah. I will say that when I after I make it mandatory, or we try to make it mandatory that all the training that comes across that we make sure that our team members sign up for the training
Mhm,
and we go to the training. And what I will say is that being in the live atmosphere with you, seeing how you engage, seeing how you implement the tasks that you tell us to implement, while you're actually doing the training, and have us role play and play out these scenarios that are truly happening in the workplace every day. When I finished, the first thing I had to say to you was, "Hey, we need to have a conversation." And so I will say this is that your classes leave me wanting to evoke every learning aspect that you present in your training. So with that, with me having to put my team or our team, because we're a unit. So I won't say my team, I'll say our team
mhm.
into training. And then when we're hiring new people, how does emotional intelligence help with the hiring process? And for me to find talent acquisition that that when we go through the interview process, you don't, it's because what I've seen is that you get the representative at the interview.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm,
then
of
once the
course.
person and then once the person starts, you get the real them. And
Absolutely.
so how does emotional intelligence help us in the hiring process? What skills, what can we do during that hiring process to help us with emotional intelligence, to help us build that person and figure out what's really happening with them during the hiring process?
Okay. Well, I want to clear something. I was actually just my only experience with the hiring with talent acquisition was I was just on a hiring panel at
Okay.
one time. So
Okay.
I didn't have anything to do with like the kind of like the onboarding or anything like that.
Right.
However, but when I did meet with the individuals and talk to them, I asked specific questions. And I think a lot of behavioral questions are very important when you're asking them how would they handle those situations in certain maybe pressure situations, and how they answer it will help you determine if this person be a good fit. Well, what do you think about team? Ask specific questions that are aligned with what you're looking for in your department. Do you
Hmm.
want someone who is a team player? So you might want to ask those specific type of questions, like how do you work under pressure? What are some things that you do? Because as you said, hiring can because everybody is sitting a representative, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree, and it's always a challenge. It's a challenge.
It is.
Yeah,
And
I,
you waste time and money, and then 6 months, a year down the line, you find that people aren't the right fit, and then you have to start this whole process over. And it can be daunting and challenging and stressful all at the same time. But I use my emotional intelligence.
there you go. Absolutely, and it's being able to pick up on certain cues from
Yeah.
individuals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From them. Hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Rucker, you have your own professional development business. Tell us about that. What services do you provide and who do you serve?
Okay, well, I tell you, I'm very excited about this opportunity because when I started, it was birth after training adults, and I started to realize like this is needed.
Okay.
Training is needed, and I didn't realize like how many adults are looking for it.
Mm-hmm.
There
Right.
are people
Right.
really truly
Yeah.
looking for
Absolutely.
upskilling and learning of how to be a better professional, or sometimes being a better, just a better person. I think that I don't think that we all are like individuals who may not want to do our job effectively or not team players or things like that. But I think that they just that haven't never been maybe taught certain skills because these are skills,
Very
when
Right.
we
true.
think about communication. So I just want to say all that so I realize that that is needed. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that I am very effective when working with individuals. I really believe that it's important for them to um, do well, be a good citizen in this world. I think that with this, have such a passion for people, and I love people. I think that's the number one thing. I
Right.
love people, and I want the
Yeah.
best for them.
Yeah.
And so when I think about these trainings, I also think about it. How can it help you in your personal life as well, such as like in relationships and things like that?
Mhm.
So certain type of and emotional intelligence will help you in that as well. You know,
Right.
so some of the trainings that I do offer are emotional intelligence, communication, effective communication. For new leaders, we have effective leadership, like a leadership 101 for those individuals, workplace development, and customer service. And all these are led with have an element of emotional intelligence because we know emotional intelligence is everything, right?
Right.
And you need
Right.
all those roles, So I always make sure that I incorporate the importance of that. And also I do custom, trainings as well. If you tell me there's a need, if you have a need, then you can just send me over a need analysis, and I can create a training specific for your need. So And I'm very excited about it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Is there one particular training or workshop that gets requested more than others?
Well, I say that I'm not gonna say none because my it just started. I'm gonna be honest, it just started.
Yeah,
It just
gotcha.
my company just started, but I did have one client where I did leading with emotional intelligence, and
Mm,
they enjoyed that. There was one university that I worked for and did training that they said they were having a lot of issues with communication, collaboration, and all the things that can prohibit you from getting the job done. And one thing that I always want to share with individuals, we got to get past the pettiness. We got to get past
Yes.
all that. We can keep the goal in mind.
yeah,
That's
Hmm.
the key. And how can we go about keeping the goal, the vision, the mission of the organization together? And I even say that even in relationships. What is it that's most important for you? And keep it about that.
Why do you
So my
think
training helped me understand about that.
yeah, why do you think communication is such a big issue for so many of us?
Maybe because we don't understand the importance of it. I
Yeah,
think that sometimes people believe that they're communicating. I think that that's it. I think that sometimes because there are different styles of communication.
true.
I think that some people may think that they communicate, or they may communicate differently. So that's why I think that getting trainings in communication and learning the differences of communicating, and it will help you to be able to work with other individuals in your workplace or even in your personal life as well, because
Right.
we have individuals who communicate different than we do.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right, 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 right. So if a company wants to hire you, I know Damon Rucker, but what can they expect from the Damon Rucker training experience? What do you bring to the table? What can they expect from you? What are some of the nuances that they may be looking to see when you step through that door?
Well, the first thing they're gonna see is someone who is very positive and who believe in the people that's in front of them, that they can actually make those changes. If they're, for the training, they're gonna have it's gonna be a very engaging experience. It's gonna be a very real experience as well. I want when individuals leave my training that they really take something with them, and that they change those behaviors, as I mentioned. My company is called the Training Consultant, and our slogan is the training that inspires action. That's the key. You want to see action after the training. So if you hire me as a trainer, then you will definitely get in a very engaging training. You would be very energetic, and I can say this: everyone in the training will be in tune. It's not going to be boring. I promise you
Right.
that. It's
It's
not
not.
going to be
It's
boring.
not.
It is going to be
Yeah.
nonstop from the time we start
Yeah.
until
Yeah.
we end.
Yeah.
It's going
Yeah.
to be engaging. It's going to be real conversation, and it's going to be relevant, because that's
Hmm.
the number one thing we wanted to do be as well. We don't want to just give you information. We want to make sure that it's relevant to you specifically
Right.
and your challenges as well. And I tell you, and you're going to get great, you're going to get change,
Hmm. Hmm.
Awesome.
and you're going to get inspired, and you're going to go back and really want to do well.
Very cool. Very cool. That's enticing. So if uh if our listeners wanted to connect with you, book a training, or follow your work, how can they contact your company or follow you?
Okay. Well, what they can do, they can reach me at contact at the trainingconsultant.org. Contact at the trainingconsultant.org. Also, they can go to my website, the training consulting the trainingconsultant.org as well. And actually, right now, what I'm doing is working on where individuals can get self-paced trainings on my website right now. So it's a learning management. So if it's about upskilling individuals. They can get trainings, and they're less than an hour. So we don't want to make sure that we're taking a lot of time, but I call it an hour of power. I promise you, it's an hour of power training for
Nice.
you. So that's going to be completed probably within the next month or so, where
Okay.
individuals can get they can get training from my website as well. They just have to, yeah.
And
So
that's,
Well, we'll put that. Yeah, we'll put that in the chat so somebody can, people can reach out to you.
yeah, we'll be sure to put it
thank you.
in the description for sure. And
Mhm.
that's the
Absolutely.
trainingconsultant.org is the website, and contact at thetrainingconsultant.org is the email.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
That's
And
great. That's great.
absolutely.
Yeah. So, you've trained thousands of people. What's the funniest or most unexpected thing that's happened in training sessions?
It's
Yeah,
funny.
go on ahead, go on and come on up with it. Come on up with it. Come on up with it.
Well, you know, the thing about it with training, it takes time sometimes. You know,
Yeah, of
I
course.
mean, you know, for transformation to happen and for like change to happen and things like that. So I think some of the things that be very funny is like our skills practice when we have individuals doing the role plays, right?
Yes.
Right.
On certain behaviors that we would like to see them change. And for sometimes it can be challenging for some individuals to make that change initially. So when you
Hmm.
see them in front of the class, role playing and certain skills that they just learned, that can be funny. And they tell you the
Yeah.
classes
I
be
know.
hilarious. They be
Yes.
laughing
Absolutely.
because you can see them kind of like getting out of that shell and really trying um, to really utilize that skill that they just learned at that moment. So I think that I always enjoy watching the role plays and the skills practice.
Cool. Cool.
Hmm.
Now, you personally, Damon, is there an aspect of emotional intelligence that you're working to improve yourself?
Yes, I say that one is sometimes, 'cause I talk a lot, right? And
There's
sometimes,
nothing wrong with
What's
that,
wrong
man.
with talking about?
well,
I
no, no, no,
know.
no. So my thing is like my mind is going. So
Ah,
sometimes what I'm working on is like to pause
hmm,
before I speak.
Me
And
too. Me
that's
too.
more of like the managing, certain things. And that's very important is the pause before you actually say things, especially when you're upset with individuals, So I say that that has been something that I have that I worked on and consistently worked on. So I've been getting plenty of practice. So I would say that is that, pausing and thinking before I actually say what I'm thinking, especially in a heated discussion.
gotcha.
You had a phrase that you used in class, I think, when we talked about the pause. I
The
can't
power in
remember
the pause.
power in the
Power in the
pause.
pause.
The power
Absolutely.
in the pause. Yes. So I'm learning that's one of my weaknesses. I don't really think or pause before I communicate. Now, professionally, I'm okay. Um, and I think I have a good rapport with with my team, and my leadership. I think that it, you know, I think that's there. It can be improved. Nothing's perfect,
Mhm.
but in my personal setting, sometimes I've got to learn the power of the pause.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You just have to think about, whatever I'm saying to this individual, how can it affect our relationship?
Right.
I think that the same thing, even when it comes to like work, see, you can do it because you do it at work, right?
Hmm.
Because you think if I say this at work, I may get fired, right? So
Right.
you have that power, in that pause, it's just that, also translate into our personal life because that's
Yeah.
very important too, because we don't want to offend, the people that we love. And
Right.
sometimes those
Yeah.
will be the individuals that we tend to hurt sometimes because they're closest. And that's where we really need to um, practice that pause. I mean, and this is one thing I tell everybody. Every little opportunity you get, practice it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I will say this. I am practicing it more as a parent um, than I did before. Because as a parent, for me, I just think I worked so hard as being a parent and
Mhm.
not trying to be a friend and trying to correct mistakes before they are made, even before they're made. And so I didn't practice the pause, but now I'm trying to practice the pause. I say it's never too late to learn how to practice the pause, and practicing the pause in your personal, intimate relationship with individuals
Absolutely.
is great, because you can offend or alienate your partner and not know that you've done that. And so I just tell people all the time, I, I this right here is this right here, yeah, yeah,
Yes. It can cause more damage than you realize, and I think
yeah.
that the power in the pause is giving you that opportunity to think on what you really want to say. I think
Hmm.
that that's the most important thing is to, okay, always taste what's getting ready to come out of your mouth, right? And if you don't like the taste of it, then I wouldn't
Mm,
say it.
that's
Hmm.
great
So
advice.
Yeah,
yeah, and I think that that's the key. And you know how when you taste something, you take your little time to see if you really like it,
like
right?
it,
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah,
before you actually indulge into the food. So
Uh-huh.
I would say the same thing, right?
yeah,
Taste the words before they come out, And if you don't like it, then I wouldn't say it, you know, or just give yourself some time.
yeah.
Hmm.
Just come up with some strategies on what you want to do, and then you want to come back and talk to them. Once that emotional intelligence kick in, because
Hmm.
that's what we're waiting. That's what that pause does. It allows for that emotional intelligence to kick in,
Right,
right?
right.
And so just like with your how you do it with your professional life, it can also happen with your personal. But
Hmm.
when you have a certain type of love and a certain type of passion and expectation for family, for like your kids, but you have to remember that they are adults too. I mean that they're kid that they're people as well,
Right.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
And and those same things that you apply with um with your employees, you might have to do them with your child as well. Give them a
Mm,
little time to think about it, and just because sometimes I think we think, well, I'm the parent, I'm gonna say what I say, but
Right. Right.
yes, I understand, but sometimes you can be more effective
Right.
when when you can just pause, and there's nothing
right.
wrong with that,
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and get your thought.
I practiced that on a 6 hour trip recently with my son. And I think it was effective and it's working. Um, and we had a lot of conversations. It's a lot you can talk about in 6 hours.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so I really say I did use the techniques that you um taught us to teach. I mean taught us to use while I was having conversations with my 21-year-old.
Hmm.
And so I just recently had another conversation with a 31-year-old. And
Okay.
so those things are being implemented, and I can see some change, and I'm working consistently daily, because it's not something you can start today and then
Absolutely.
want to see results immediately. But there's also a factor that you can't start it today and then drop it tomorrow. It's
Right.
something that you have to consistently be working on, like you would work on anything else. And
Absolutely.
you can't get tired, you can't get weary, because I really truly believe that emotional intelligence is the forefront of our people. Those soft skills that we
Those
use.
are
Yeah,
absolutely,
yeah, those
absolutely.
soft skills that we use. Yeah.
Absolutely. And as I mentioned earlier, emotional intelligence is about being effective, right? And so
Hmm.
when you're having that conversation with your kids, what is it that you're trying to get accomplished?
Mm,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
What is it that you're trying to get accomplished? That's one thing I would say, is it that you're the mom and you're going to just show how big and bad you are? Not picking on you, but
Yeah. Yeah.
But are do you really want to um impact them in a positive way that you want them to, what you or whatever you want, whatever you're trying to get over to them, whatever
Mhm.
message you're trying to get over to them.
Right.
Right,
And people will listen to you more when you're more calm and you can just have a conversation with individuals. And I think that that's what we lack, sometimes just having a conversation with individuals, you know, and especially like even with our kids, allow them to have a voice,
right,
and listen to them.
yeah,
Listen to what they, what's your issue, what's going on, because that's part of that emotional intelligence as well. Is also building that relationship,
hmm,
so they can
hmm,
feel comfortable when there is some things that's really bothering them. You want them to be able to come to you.
right,
Hmm.
So,
yeah.
Damon, speaking of kids, if you could talk to your younger self, what advice would you give yourself as a kid?
Let me think. You
It could
know,
be it could be
I'm just
career advice or any advice.
I tell you, my story is so unique. So it's kind of like one of those things. I think that I would have, took some things a little more serious from like an education standpoint, when I was younger, you
Right.
know, I think that that was one thing I would tell myself, but, but I'm very proud of, like, the accomplishments that I made. But if I could tell my younger self, I would say, be more, self-aware.
Mm,
Okay. I would say that.
very cool. That's
Hmm.
great advice for sure. Dr. Pam, you're about to say something.
No, 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 no. I was just gonna lead into a question like, you know, what would be if I wanted to share with someone um, who's trying to grow themselves personally and or professionally? Do you have a suggested book, podcast, or resource that you would suggest that that you would say, "Hey, I really think you should read this," because Diedrich, he's the bookworm of the family.
Mm,
Okay.
So him and his dad. So he loves to read. He's a researcher. He's a resource magnet. Information. He's the information guru.
Okay.
So I consider him the information guru.
well, thank
So
you.
if you could recommend something to people who want to grow personally and professionally, what would you suggest?
There is a book that I was reading that I read. It's called Emotional Intelligence, and it's by Mindful Company, and it really focuses on mastering self-awareness.
Okay.
And I think that that's very important because once you're more self-aware on who you are, it'll help you be able to work with other individuals as well. And when I say about self-awareness and knowing your strengths and also knowing some of your triggers as well, right? So once
Hmm.
you're able to identify some of the things that may bother you, so when you're talking to someone let's say, mm, get you up and maybe hit one of those triggers, how to deal with them effectively and to get the goal uh accomplished. I can show you what the book looks like if you like.
Yes, I was gonna
Sure.
ask you where can I find it?
I got this off of Amazon. It's Emotional Intelligence, and I'm reading it, and it's the Mindfulness Company, and it's how to master self-awareness, empathy, and social skills for deeper and more meaningful relationships.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay. So
I'm
and I
gonna
will.
get that. That's gonna be my next read.
Absolutely. And I think it's very good because you want those meaningful relationships and also showing empathy. I mean, I think that that's very important as well. Showing empathy towards individuals because we all come from different backgrounds. And as you mentioned earlier, Pamela, that we don't know what other individuals are, going through,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And so, and showing empathy and sometimes showing a little grace on individuals as well.
Right.
Hmm.
Okay.
Absolutely. So, my last question, Damon, it's 2026. If you could help everybody to make one mindset shift to improve things, what would that shift be?
I would say it's just to have more. empathy for each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that that's most important. I think that we just so caught up in ourselves nowadays, and we don't even think about the other individuals, you know. And I think that if we can have more empathy and more love for each other, and really just consider other individuals sometimes, you know,
Gotcha.
and what they may be dealing with, and be able to help each other. I think that that's very important. Being able to help someone who may be a little more, who may be dealing with something. We all need someone, right, to help us
Absolutely.
through this challenge.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mhm. So,
Excellent. Great advice. Dr. P, any other questions for Mr. Rucker?
No, I just think, one thing we talked about is emotional intelligence and um, if it was a superpower.
Hmm.
okay.
And if you was a superhero, what would your emotional intelligence superpower be and why?
Uh, my superpower. It would, um, I feel like I try to do that now, is to um build you be more socially aware and building relationships and helping people to become better individuals.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that's what I would like to do, is to see a better world, to be honest. And if I could do that, and that's why I'm trying. I love what I'm doing now, because I feel like
Hmm.
I'm doing that. So my superpower would be, I can zap them and they can, become better or something like that. I show more empathy and show more love to individuals, right?
Okay.
So I would say that.
Okay. Well, D
Yo,
Hill.
yo.
What would your superpower? What would your EI superpower be?
um, I think I'm pretty good at reading people. I have a good intuition of
You
who
do.
people really are,
You do.
and I bring that out of them because I feel like I'm honest with people about who I am. So
Hmm.
they see that they can relax with me and be themselves. So that would be my superpower, helping people to be themselves more so than they
Yeah.
otherwise would be. Yeah,
Yeah. You're right. I think that's
you
a
think
great
so?
superpower.
Oh,
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So what would be your superpower? I'm curious. Yes,
Dr.
yes.
P.
I don't know if I have a superpower. I have a kryptonite though.
We all have those as well, right?
I would say if I had to have a superpower, a EI superpower, it would be getting people to be themselves. Um, to trust who they see when they talk to me. Because I don't bring a representative at all.
Absolutely.
I bring genuineness to my friendships, my relationships, whether they be work or professional. I'm about nurturing and helping individuals grow personally and professionally. So
Absolutely.
I'm I think my EI would be being genuine with
Okay.
individuals. And I think that carries a long way. And to give an example, like today, I sent an email out to our CPO, and it was just something, just to say thank you. And it was very genuine. And for her to respond how she did, it made me feel great
Absolutely.
because she could recognize that I was being genuine. It had nothing to do with I'm getting something for something because I don't that there's nothing there. There's
Absolutely.
nothing to get back from being
Hmm.
genuine with her or being genuine with someone else. And I think that's my superpower, being genuine. But my kryptonite it's self-awareness. Sometimes I'm not self-aware. Sometimes that's self-awareness, man. I'd be like I said, this right here, I'm learning to the power of the pause.
Hmm.
So that's me right there. I'm working on that though. I'm working on that.
Hey, that's all we can do, right? We can
That's
continue
all we
to
can do.
keep working,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
being
Uh,
consistent,
yeah,
but being
yeah.
aware the great thing about it is being aware that that's your kryptonite.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
That's the
Mm-hmm.
interesting
right.
thing is a lot of people are not even aware of their kryptonite, right? So
Right.
how can you work on it when you don't know what it is? So that's a great thing about at least this is an area I might need to work on, and
There you go.
this
Yeah.
is an area I need to work on. So you can put it into play.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Damon, any final thoughts before we close out tonight?
Well, I just want to say thank you all again. This has been a great honor to talk to you all about emotional intelligence and giving me an opportunity to speak on it. I really do. I'm very grateful for this opportunity, and I want to say thank you all very much for this. And also, of course, if anybody needs any training in these areas, you can reach me at contact at thetrainingconsultant.org, or you can also you can go to my website and see what we offer as well. But I want to say thank you all again for everything. It's been great, enriching
Yeah.
conversation, and I hope and pray that when other individuals see this, that they can get something that can impact their life in a positive way.
Right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and we really appreciate you joining us. For everybody, if you enjoy conversations like this, be sure to hit the subscribe button and give us a like and share it with your friends and coworkers and everybody else. Um, this has been great. I've learned a little bit about emotional intelligence, some stuff that I didn't know, and we appreciate you, Damon, for joining us, and we hope to see you again. Dr. P, as always, it's been great. Um,
Yes.
let's do it again sometime.
We will. We
So,
will.
for everybody else, this has been Of Two Mindsets, and we appreciate you joining us. Have a great evening or morning, wherever you are.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.